Hello everyone. Today I'm going to discuss Robert Browning's My Last Duchess and will give a critical analysis on it. So let us begin with the introduction of the poet at first. So Robert Browning was a major poet of Victorian age in England. All right. So he received only a limited formal education, though his father educated him in Greek and Latin. Browning had started writing poetry at an early age, and at the age of 12, he wrote a book. However, he destroyed the book because he could not find a publisher for it. But then he published his first work, Pauline. Pauline at the age of 21. Pauline. All right. So change of thing 12 and 21. So his major work includes dramatic lyrics, dramatic romances and lyrics, men, women, dramatic persona, The Ring and the Book in 3 volumes, etc. He married Elizabeth Barrett, who was also a poet, in 1846. They lived for nearly 15 years in Italy due to Barrett's ill health. After her death in 1861, Browning returned to England. He died in Venice, Italy, at his son's home in 1889. All right. Now, I would like to focus on the genre on which this particular poem is written, which is dramatic monologue. So, a dramatic monologue was Browning's favorite genre, and all the 3 poems in Delhi University's BA English honors syllabus are written in this form. So, as we can deduce from the name itself, dramatic monologue is a poem in the form of a monologue by an imagined character who is talking to silent listener. Now, at this point of time, I would like to make you guys note the difference between dramatic monologue and a soliloquy. And soliloquy. So, what happens in a dramatic monologue? There is a speaker, he or she speaks, and there is a listener, but the listener does not speak at all. And in case of soliloquy, there is no listener at all. Soliloquy is present only in the presence of a reader and audience in case of theater. And one of the most profound example of soliloquy is a Shakespeare play, Macbeth. And there are number of instances where Lady Macbeth and Macbeth himself may make soliloquy. All right, and it is in one of these scenes itself when Lady Macbeth utters the most famous line, "What is done cannot be undone." So it is important to note the difference between dramatic monologue and solid. So now the question arises, why is the monologue dramatic? Why? So it is because it creates a specific situation, usually at a dramatic and critical point. Secondly, it reveals a great deal of social, psychological and emotional aspects and other details about the character of the speaker, and often about the listener as well. The poem often includes references to action. While Browning was not only the poet to have used the dramatic monologue, he is considered to be the poet who brought a high level of sophistication to this form. Among the poets who have used this form are Alfred Tennyson, Dante Rossetti, his brother of Christina Rossetti, जिनकी poem है हमारे syllabus में, Goblin Market, and other Victorians. All right. Furthermore, I would like to draw your attention to Browning's use of dramatic monologue. So, Browning was very interested in drama and theater and had written several plays, but these were not very successful on stage. So, insightfully, he realized that his strength lay in depicting action in character rather than character in action, and he observed this himself. So, as mentioned earlier, Browning is seen as having brought a great deal of sophistication and enrichment to the form of dramatic monologue. And in his poem, he uses a poetic, dramatic language for a wide variety of effects, including social, psychological, and emotional characterization of the speaker and often the listener. Then, for social commentary. All right, social commentary, then humor and irony. Irony has been used in this poem as well, and I will be talking about it towards the end a bit. Then historical and period setting, thrill and excitement of a very dramatic nature, and nuances of language and syntax. In spite of their dramatic nature, Browning poetry is also very lyrical. Note this point, it's very lyrical. Uh, and Browning negotiates a very fine balance in situating poetry between the private and public spheres, between making it expressive and dramatic. Now, let us come across the major themes in and perspectives on My Last Duchess. So, My Last Duchess is among the most famous poems of Browning, and and is seen as one of the best examples of dramatic monologue. Here are some of the themes you can pay attention to while studying the poem. So, the first one is identity. Identity of the speaker. Secondly, we have identity of the listener and the purpose for which he has come. Then we have class and power position. All right, power position and contextualized in terms of social upbringings and social upbringing and other aspects related to it. So references to these work can be drawn, for example, the opening reference to the portrait of the duchess generates a range of meaning, including death of the duchess, the duke's love for art, his pride in possession of artworks, duchess's honestness and innocence, her beauty, duke's pride of ownership over her. Okay, it's important to note this point: ownership ownership. This is objectification of the woman. Objectification objectification All right. Then we have the domineering attitude towards her. So it is also point to be noted. Important point to be noted. His domineering characteristics, attitude towards her, the cruelty and arrogance in his boast of having and had her murdered, the possible reasons the duke is giving all this information about his character and expectation to the visitor, and so on. Similarly, with the closing reference to the sculpture of Neptune taming a seahorse, we can think of what meaning it produces and reinforces. And then there is gender relations, sexuality, power relations, objectification, and aesthetization of women, making the duchess an object of art in life and as well as death, playing a decorative purpose. Duke's ability to exert social as well as psychological control and manipulation. Duke's wealth and greed also, wealth and greed, pride in rank and status, and very important theme, life versus art. Life versus art. This can be seen through the portrait of the duchess in painting and as a living woman. All right. Last but not at all the least, form, structure, and style are illustrated as follows. So the poem is written in heroic couplet, that is rhymed pentameter. Again, another thing to be noted: iambic pentameter. So what is iambic pentameter? So iamb is an unstressed syllable followed by a stressed one. All right, and the thing that have this characteristic is called iambic. All right, penta stands for 5 and meter is a unit of measurement. So line of a poem which contains 5 iamb is called to be written in iambic pentameter. So this type of heroic couplet was widely used by Shakespeare in his sonnets, and also by Sidney and Spenser. Iambic pentameter. All right, then the lines in my last Duchess are not end stopped. They are not end stopped, as one poetic line continues to the next one. All right, and then there is use of dramatic elements of intensification and climax. Also, there is double framing, art and aesthetics in social convention. And then finally we have use of irony. All right. Use of irony. How is it used? So it is used in the context of the Duchess, who, after her death, she has become immortalized as a work of art. All right. But what he could not do when she was alive, that is control her life fully. Now the Duke has been able to achieve this in her death. So this symbolizes the use of irony in the poem. So, well, with that, we conclude our session today.